Let's get started with just some simple math. We're not going to jump right into the pharmacy math. I want to do a little bit of review before we really just go head first into it. To do pharmacy math, you're going to have to be able to perform some simple algebra. Some simple algebra as well as some simple rounding, some converting. Before I get started into this, I want to just go over a quick review over some of these concepts to make sure you're familiar with it before we jump right in. Let's start with a percentage. How do you convert a percentage to a decimal or a decimal to a percentage? Let's take a look at the first slide. We're going to move the decimal over two places to convert from a decimal percentage. For instance, here on the slide I have 0.5. You move it over two places and it becomes 50. I have 0.125. You move that decimal place over and it becomes 12.5. 0.1 is 10%. And 1, move the decimal place over to and it becomes 100. It's actually a fairly simple concept. It also works the other way around. 50 could then be changed to a decimal by moving the decimal place over two places to the left. Okay, so from 50 back to 0.5. Be able to convert from percentage to decimal or decimal to percentage. All right, so how to correctly write decimals. Please understand this slide because there's so many people in healthcare that don't, and it creates a great source of making a medication error. It's that zeros are leaders, not followers. Repeat it after me. Zeros are leaders, not followers. For example, a correct way to write 0.5 is 0.5. Notice I have three incorrect ways after this. I have 0.5, I have 0.50, I have 0.500. So the rule is zeros are leaders. I can lead with the correct way there, 0.5. I'm not going to follow with a 0. In other words, the 0.50 and the 0.500. Why is that? You probably can already tell. Those incorrect ones, that first one that says 0.5, that decimal's real easy to lose on a prescription and it starts looking like 5. That next one sure looks like a 50 whenever it's in bad doctor handwriting. And then that last one, 0.500, doesn't make much sense whenever you read it as 0.500. It's 0.5. It's 0.5. So zeros are leaders, not followers. If you are ever called to write a decimal, make sure you follow that rule. Don't be the cause of a medication error. That being said, you're going to have to clean up a little bit of a mess because all doctors don't follow this. They'll write that 0.5, so you got to look for that hidden decimal. Just because they do it wrong doesn't mean that you should do it wrong. Let's talk a little bit about rounding. Rounding off decimals. You want to find the place the number is rounded to. The first place is the whole number place, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all whole number places. The place immediately to the right of a decimal is the tenths place. 2 places to the right is the hundredths place. And then 3 places to the right is the thousandths place. You want to find out which digit yours is to be rounded to. For instance, if it's to be rounded to the first tenths place, your answer may be 1.6, 1.7. You'll want to look to the number to the right of whatever place that you're rounding to and round up or down. If the number is greater than 5, you'll round up. If the number is less than 5, you'll round down. For instance, let's say you had 1.63. 1.63, and I asked you to round to the tenths place. You will round to 1.6. How about 1.89, and I asked you to round to the tenths place. You will see that 9 is greater than 5, and you'll go ahead and add to 1.9 instead of 1.89, and that is rounding. Let's discuss ratios. Sometimes you'll see a number, a colon, in another number. Don't be scared by that. That is simply a ratio, and it's a different way of expressing a fraction. For instance, on this slide, I have 1 to 40. That equals 1/40th. It's the same thing. Or how about 2 to 1? That's the same thing as saying a fraction of 2 over 1. Now, the best way to read a ratio like that is reading it as 2 parts to 1 part. So 2 to 1 is 2 parts, say, diphenhydramine and 1 part lidocaine. All right, and then finally, to really be able to push forward into pharmacy math, you need to understand simple algebra. The simplest of algebra you can really come up with is just solve for one variable, one unknown, solve for x. I'm going to go over this quickly. If you don't understand it, please get some help somewhere. If you really have struggled with math, it's simple solving for x. It's one of the easiest things, or one of the most rudimentary portions of basic algebra. I'm going to go over it with you right here. Once you understand this concept, you'll be able to do quite a bit of the different math concepts involved in pharmacy math. So let's just look at solving for x. I have here 5x plus 3 equals 100. Remember the order of operations. I always remembered, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which was parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So you can see I just took the first letters of please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You'll want to do those order of operations. If there's parentheses, you want to do those first. Exponents, do those first. You're not going to really see any exponents in pharmacy math though. But the multiplication, the division, the addition, and the subtraction, you will see all those. So let's look at the problem. 5x plus 3 equals 100. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you need to do to the other side. So I want to get x by itself. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. Imagine, have you ever gotten, like, say, a foot rub, or given somebody a foot rub, and you just rub one foot, and they say, hey, you gotta do it on the other side over there. You can't leave me uneven like that. It's the same thing on an equation. If I'm going to do something to one side of the equation, you've got to even it out to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to subtract 3 from the left side of the equation, and I'm also going to subtract 3 from the right side of the equation. That will make it where it's just 5x equals 97. And you can see my work right there on that slide. Now I have 5x plus 3 equals 100. I'll subtract both sides to get that 5x equals 97. I'm going to divide 5 by each side to get the x by itself. Remember, what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. Since 5 over 5 equals 1, that's why I'm just using 5. So 5x divided by 5 just equals x, and 97 divided by 5 equals 19.4. If I asked you to round just to the nearest whole number, the answer just would have been 19 here. But I really want you to be able to understand how to do simple algebra solving for x. It's a simple concept, but sometimes it takes a little bit of repetition, and if you haven't gotten into algebra in a little bit of time, it may take a little review. And that is a quick little simple algebra review. I hope you're able to jump right in and know this. Many of you already know it. If you feel you're a little deficient in simple algebra or some simple math, then go back and review whatever you've studied before to this point. But hopefully you're ready to jump right into it and get right into regular pharmacy math. But the things discussed in this lecture are important to be able to move on.